Good morning, BBH. Good morning specifically. I'll be nice to you, Alex, even though you're not here. Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Stokes, who was just here but left the call. Good morning, Steph. Good morning, Bridget or Brigitte. And good morning, Phil. I've not seen you in a minute. Hope you're well. And good morning, other Bridget. Hope everyone is having a lovely Tuesday. Good latte. Alrighty. I'm joined by some amazing production members and a guest making his BBH Morning Tea debut, and I think you all will be super excited to see him. We're here to talk about kind of a little bit of the aftermath of some messy houses as they've crowned their head of households and made their first initial nomination. So I'm excited to talk all about the craziness. They've been here on Morning Tea before. They're our newest members of production. It's Ashley. Oh, with the mug.
I'd like to make a deal with you 10 minutes before this happens. And will you make sure it goes through? We're safe, right? No, you don't get the joke.
Are you doing Preston?
Yep.
Please. I was like, wait a minute, what? I was like, oh my God, not Preston. Girl, we'll get to him. Love him to death, but we'll get to Mr. Preston on the fourth. Speaking of newest production members, it's Kadri.
Yay!
Yay, it worked. It did it.
I'm so annoyed. Look, they're not going to do it again. Like, fuck this system.
Know how whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
It does it when it wants to.
Making his BBH Morning Tea debut, he hails from BBH 11 and BBH 15. It's Anthony Io.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Kadri, you need to change it to king of like video overlays now, because you're the only one I've ever seen have that.
Oh my goodness.
There it again.
It wasn't even the thumbs up.
I'm screaming. I don't know. Like, it literally. Anyway.
I don't know. Whatever.
It must be the camera. It has to be.
It's got to be something. Yes, more Anthony representation. Hello, Elise. Hello, Dan.
Oh my God.
You're on a Mac. That's why, aren't you? I think they do it on Mac.
So am I, but it's not working.
Weird.
Whatever. I'll get over it. Alrighty. Before we get into the team by team discussion, we'll talk about the alliances that currently exist in the house. Most of these came into the day already existing. That would be Ashley's former castmates. That's the BBH 18 alliance of Frankie, Preston, Madison. We have MTV, which is Megan, Trey, Victoria. We have Black Coffee, which is Jabbar, Trey, Lamont. And we had Whoop Whoop, Caro, Liv, and Preston. We also get a new alliance formed today, which is called Not For Lee, which is Trey, Megan, and Preston. We will get to kind of Team Braun at the end because they're the most interesting and intriguing. So we'll start kind of house by house and walk through kind of the craziness of yesterday. We'll start with the least interesting house. That's Team Bubbly. No offense to Team Bubbly. I'm really going to rag on them all around because they're just the least interesting house. Team Bubbly, it started off the day. The HOH could have been Madison, it could have been Mags, it could have been Christian, it could have been Louise, but as time goes on, it really starts to boil down to only Christian and Louise, and at the end of the day, Christian is the head of household in Team Bubbly. It's very clear who he's going to nominate between. He's between Victoria, Madison, and Rizzo, as most people would have been in this house. They were the three kind of house targets had it been an entire house of 18. So Christian definitely has the easiest job of the three HOHs. But Christian is not necessarily handling this HOH super well.
That's an understatement.
He is not doing great with Rizzo. Rizzo is in his chat not very happy with Christian because he feels the dryness of the responses. And that's something that you have to, as an orger, you have to manage well. If you can't manage your texts, you have to then prioritize calls, which is not easy to do when people are working 9 to 5s and all this fun stuff. Like, if your texts are dry and you're not calling, it's not a good look. And yeah, it's just not a good look.
Rizzo's like it's not even dry. He's like, I know you're avoiding talking to me. Like I said, this is this, and you're just not responding. It's like, make it make sense. Like, or just fucking tell me that you're putting me up. Like that's what Rizzo is basically saying.
And like, I'm really surprised. Yes, what Mitchell said, Christian is rusty. I'm really surprised that Christian is acting like this because like I high-key expected a lot out of him. This like he's now a host of a Big Brother game. Like I've heard him Big Brother-esque.
Ish. I don't really know what to call it.
He hosts a game, and like I've heard him on numerous occasions say, "Yo, like if you're HOH or the president or the whatever the front runner for the like, you have to be able to manage these things well." And I'm just really taken aback that Christian is like fumbling the bag this hard.
Yeah. One thing too, I remember there were times where I would like reach out to people in my seasons and say, okay, it's not reciprocating, right? So then you kind of like put a pin in it and you say, okay, noted. And then you realize once you get to a point where you can maybe win HOH, you say, okay, well, I have some easy, understandable targets, the low hanging fruit. But when you're in these bunkers in the beginning of the game, I'm sorry, houses.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to take that strategy because you're not looking at the whole house. You've got 6 folks together, and unless you have such confidence that you really need to create an opportunity like that, it's like, oh, we haven't really connected, but there's really limited excuses for not trying to connect. But it makes me wonder how confident he was in winning that HOH, and maybe how confident he felt that he was going to nominate them. Because, I mean, let's face it, there's jury management's not really too important in the beginning, maybe. So maybe he just wanted to not spend too much time there, but I can definitely see why I would be so upset if I was Rizzo, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just Rizzo. Like
Megs.
I guess coming into the day, Christian feels confident he can be head of household. He's in a battle with many other agents throughout the day, but he feels confident. So like he had most weekend and most of Monday to kind of ponder his noms. He's not in a situation where he had a low score and just kind of like lucked into the HOH. He was doing very well on the leaderboards. So like he had to have been prepared for this. So he knows he's nominating Madison.
Oh yeah.
He knows absolutely he's nominating Madison, which is interesting considering they do have a pregame connection. Again, which Madison doesn't necessarily remember. I don't know how much of that is true or not true. I don't know. Because she also forgot someone who hosted her in 18. So, who knows?
Okay, so wait. I'm not a Madison Brown stan, but I do get forgetting people that you've played with or been hosted by. Like, I get that. Okay? So, like, I'm not going to rag on her too much on forgetting who the hell Christian is.
Which I don't know how long Madison was in the president for. If it was long, I don't know. I'm not a president Wikipedia person. Phil, if you're in the comments, please inform us as to how long she might have lasted on that season. Even though I know you've only been on one season of production, but maybe you know the answer. Like she has a pregame connection with him. So like already, and I'm not saying to rely on your pregame connections or anything, but that always like is a little extra dagger to the heart. Is like, oh, and you're nominating me first, and we knew each other coming in. Like that always hurts more than just like, oh, we didn't know each other and you're nominating me. So he knows he's doing Madison despite having a pregame relationship with her, and is between Victoria and Rizzo. He's going completely based off of who I've talked to the least. But he also is playing this weird strat of like, I want to hear the team's opinions on the nominations, and has these really awkward calls with Madison and Victoria, where he's like, so like, what are your thoughts on the noms? Like, who would you nominate? Okay, great. So I'm considering nominating you. Like, what an awkward transition to be like, I want to hear your opinion. Like, I want to work together on these nominations as a team. Oh, and by the way, it might be you.
And then he's like, but it could also be this other person. Tell me what you think about them. Tell me.
You're truly like, do you want to go on the block or not? Like like the call with Victoria is just strange. And I mean, she's not happy about it. I mean, Victoria called Christian not once. She got to top 9. Okay, so Madison got to a decent run in the president, so she should remember Christian.
Yeah.
Should.
You'd hope.
You would think that's like 7 rounds. Anyway. Victoria called him twice yesterday. And they weren't short calls either. They were decent long calls.
The first one's an hour.
Yeah,
and the second one
was like 20 to 30 minutes. So like from Victoria's headspace, you've now called him for an hour and a half twice. He's asking your opinions on who should be nominated. And then you drop the bombshell of, well, it could be you or it could be Rizzo. That doesn't feel really good. That feels really shitty. I mean, again, I know it's not his intention, but like, what more do you want from her? Like, when you're also saying that you haven't called Rizzo. When he openly admits, yeah, I haven't called Rizzo, my texts with him are pretty dry, then why is Victoria even on the table as of right now when you called her twice today? and she shared the twist information with you, and you're still considering her like she really feels scorned right now.
I said this in the prod chat, and Dan just said this in the YouTube comments, but like, they could easily figure out, like, if they literally just got on call with a group, like as a group, they could figure out, oh, we're like most likely safe. Christian, probably easier than the other 2 HOHs, could easily just be like, yo, we're going to be safe. Like, these noms mean nothing. So I'm literally just going to throw people up, but like, hey, we're safe. We're all safe.
He's making 3 not good connections in this round where he could like maybe just be like, we'll see what happens. Like, had he handled it better?
Like there are 2 teams that feel very confident they are the safe team. This team more than ever feels the most safe. Like, all 6 of them feel it. Team Braun, will get to them. It's like 50-50. Like, some believe it, some don't believe it.
Yeah.
This entire team feels confident that they could be the safe team. You approach it this way. That's what Lee did so well in 15 when we had a similar-ish twist. Lee was like, hey, team, it's not us. We're not evicting someone. So, like, I'm just going to nominate 2 people because that's the formalities. Don't take it seriously. Like, I promise you we're safe. That's the way he needed to approach this. Like, hey, I have to nominate 2 people. Does anyone care? Like, I promise you it's all going to be Gucci. And, like, I promise once this round is over, I'll tell the house that, like, we knew we'd be safe and we just nominated 2 people. It didn't matter. But instead,
like, he's ruining his game for nothing.
Like, it's like taking the game of Candyland too seriously right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it ain't like on top. It's now Victoria who feels bad. Madison hated the call, and she's been venting to people because she feels good as well that she's getting nominated. Rizzo's pissed because he didn't even get a call before being nominated. Well, sure, like, his schedule's a little difficult at times. And then Megs completely felt ghosted because she messaged Christian right as soon as he won and wanted to talk to him. And he then went to go call Louise for like 90 minutes. So,
which Megs was like, Louise is also not answering.
Like, he scorned 4 people in his house out of 5 with his HOH that easily could have been avoided as a simple formality. It's just...
I definitely, when you mentioned that he was on a call for her with Victoria initially for an hour, and then if you're considering nominating me after that, then I'm not just thinking about our relationship. I'm thinking about, like, what kind of work are you putting in on the other side? Yeah. Like, what are you doing with all these other people that if I'm investing an hour with you and you still don't trust me enough to not put me up? Did she offer the captain's information before he mentioned that, or did she offer that as like a, hey, let me share some information?
I think the second after.
Okay.
After he's like, it was very close.
Very smart on her part.
On the same, it was on the same call.
Yeah.
I just don't remember if it was before or after he dropped
I think
the
it's
bomb.
after, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was like a Hail Mary to like stay off the block or.
Well, her
That
plan
would be
was
even more
to.
concerning is if she did that initially and he's like, well, I'm thinking about nominating you.
She had always thought of once the nomination or around nomination time to tell her team because she's like, what is there to lose? So she was already planning on telling people. So I think she's like, boom, here we go. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely some mixed bag feelings in terms of how Christian's being viewed. I mean, I will give Stokes, like Rizzo has been unavailable and he doesn't have the reason to be bitter. I understand that. I think Rizzo's schedule does not align super well at times. So even though I will, in Rizzo's defense, they haven't been on a single call yet, and we're 3 days in. So at some point, there has to be some accountability on both sides because Rizzo has managed to call 7 or 8 other people. So there has to be some accountability there. But yeah, it was just a big fumble from Christian here on an HOH that shouldn't have been this difficult, nominating 2 house targets based off of communication. It should have been super simple. But ultimately, he lands on Rizzo and Madison, as those were the last 2 people. Well, I guess Madison was the last player on his team that he has called. He's still yet not to have called Rizzo. And Victoria ultimately calling him twice ultimately helps her out, avoid the block initially. She will be the renom if the veto is to be used on one of the nominees.
And she knows that.
And she's full. I mean, when you get told that you might be going up and then you don't, you have to imagine that it's going to be you. Right now, it seems like a must-win for Madison if she doesn't want to be evicted from this group. Louise will definitely evict Madison, and then whoever between Victoria or Rizzo isn't on the block would evict Madison over the other. So it is a must-win for Madison if she doesn't want to be evicted. Victoria, the initial renom, but an interesting scenario is if Victoria is to win the veto, her and Rizzo have really started to form this duo companionship that I don't know if Victoria would feel compelled to use it on Rizzo, leaving Megs as the next viable renom, because Christian will not be nominating Louise. Louise is the most safe person in this house. So I'm intrigued to see if Victoria's to win, does she use it on Rizzo? If Megs is them the renom, do they take the shot at Megs? Do they just evict Madison? I don't know. So there's a little bit of interesting dynamics there in terms of a Victoria win, but otherwise this house is pretty locked up.
Plus, thinking about like the confidence and safety, like, would you want to now, not only as HOH, do you want to ruffle the feathers with everyone, but if you're going to use the POV on someone for no reason?
And that's the thing. This house just needs to, like, really, I'm shocked that this didn't happen because, and again, I'm comparing it to 15 when y'all had a similar twist. That was the first thing y'all did.
Yeah.
When
we're like, I feel good about this.
Yeah, like y'all immediately took the gray area and said, all right, how good do we feel? Because y'all had the same restrictions, no discussing agent names, none of that. But you all came in being like, all right, I feel good, I feel meh, I feel really good. And y'all kind of combined how good y'all were feeling. And y'all were like, okay, we feel pretty good. It's not us.
It also helped that like Lee was, even though he wasn't in my bunker and we didn't know who he was, but we knew that person was not in our group probably because of who did have it. And they were like, okay, we might not be safe here. So, because it was one safety. No, it was top 2 were safe.
Yeah, 2 safety, yeah. So
that's what it was. But we felt confident that we weren't the number 1, but we may have been number 2. So we operated similarly.
Yeah, I just don't know why they didn't try to level set. I'm shocked, and no team really did that. No team came together to be like, hey, where are we feeling? Like, do we think we have a real eviction or do we think we're going to be safe? Instead, they just kind of loosely talked about it and just kind of left it into the ether as like, well, whatever happens on Wednesday happens, when that doesn't need to be the case. If you're confident you're the safe team, it's a free round. Just don't be stressed. Take it simple. But instead, they're all taking it seriously, which
and this will have long-term implications.
Yeah,
and I'm here for it.
Oh yeah,
I'm absolutely here. Do I think they're dumb for not doing it? Yes, I will be sat and I will be eating. Like, they're so dumb.
Like, the twist is delivering, so thank you so much. But yes,
Team TV's winning.
Team TVO is absolutely winning. Well, that's it for Team Bubbly. Stay tuned for Power Veto results tonight at 7:30. So, but yeah, right now, I mean, only 2 people have competed from this team, but Madison is currently winning. So, should be, if she is to win, some fun Team TV as Victoria and Rizzo would end up on the block. I think Rizzo would be evicted of the 2, but time shall see. But I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let's move on to the second most interesting house, and that is Team Brain. Team Brain is is Sarah's drafted team that has Erica, Lamont, Nikki, Frankie, and Jabbar. This team is just sad. Ultra sad. It truly was fighting for who's going to be best of the worst. And it really could have gone to anybody. Like, Erica was in the lead most of the day. Sarah and Nikki had posted scores before and been on the leaderboard, and we didn't know if they were like holding back some scores. Lamont was posting kind of like at the last minute. We had no idea kind of where this HOH was going because they're not the safe team. They know it. They know they flopped. But yeah, they knew it wasn't it from Team Brain.
But Jabbar actively throwing, so like
Jabbar actively throwing. Frankie did not send a single score.
And Jabbar is smart, smart. He knew to throw immediately.
Well, I mean, it didn't help he was on his phone and at a homecoming game immediately, but yeah.
Well, also that, but yeah, he saw his team and said, "Nope, I'm good."
Nope.
Yeah, I mean,
it's funny because like. Some other folks saw this as an opportunity as a must win because it's a small group, no matter. I just think, sometimes people like Jabbar who has experience, which leads to confidence, and says, hey, I'm just going to roll the dice and set this one out. So it'll be interesting to compare that to someone who thought that was sort of a must win because it was so small on the risk, and see where they end up, 3 rounds later.
And I love that Jabbar has been in his DR and on some calls alluding to him throwing this first HOH, but wanting this next HOH, which I think the second HOH is the one that you really want with this twist, because you go back to having 12, 13, 14 people to choose from and not 3 other people to choose from. So like, I think Jabbar is smart. Like, it's early power, but it's not like you're taking a hit and you're getting a lot of blood on your hands. Like, I think that's great. Throwing this one, go for the second one, call it a day. Yes.
Jabbar knows what he wants, and Jabbar got a very lucky grouping for him to be able to accomplish what he wants, and he knows when to put on the gas and when to let go, and he knew immediately time to let go, sit back, let the cards fall where they fall. But next round, I'm taking the cards into my own hands and I'm gonna fuck some shit up. So super excited to see full action next week. But Erica ultimately is the HOH here in Team Brain. It was not difficult for her to achieve this HOH. She held it pretty much all day. There was a slight scare that Lamont might have taken it from her, but in the end, it goes to Erica. And Erica's in an interesting position because she comes in for sure thinking she's going to nominate Nikki. She has the least amount of bond with Nikki and feels like that's just the easiest nom set. But then she has this interesting dilemma with Frankie and Lamont. She had a really good call with Frankie and thought that they we're going to work together. And one of her top allies, period, but also in this team is Sarah, who Sarah also really fancies Frankie. And they had discussed maybe forming a trio together of Erica, Sarah, and Frankie. And Erica thought Frankie was all Gucci with her and all good, but then she called Lamont on, I believe, Sunday night, and Lamont kind of was like, I don't think Frankie is as close with you as you think he is. I think he might nominate you, honestly. And this kind of caused a little bit of a riff in Erica's mind, being like, well, now what the fuck? Like, I thought we were good. We had such a great call. Like, why would he nominate me? And this is where kind of the breakdown in the telephone happens, is that like when she called Sarah versus when she called Frankie, and then the call with Lamont, and all of this telephone, and there's confusion as to the timeline of events.
And she's confused because she hears from Megan and from Sarah that Frankie really likes her before Frankie even tells her that. That's another part of the layer for it.
So is this Lamont being messy and just like starting stuff, or like did he genuinely feel like Frankie and Erica were not close?
I think it was an accident or a misunderstanding. I don't think it was intentionally him trying to like throw Frankie under. I think in his mind he was honestly communicating something that he thought was honestly true, but in hindsight I think he's realized it wasn't true. But in the moment I don't think he was intentionally trying to lie. Was he trying to maybe sow some seeds of doubt there? Probably, but I don't think he was intentionally trying to like truly blow up the situation to the point that it has. And I think he kind of realized that on Monday, because Erica basically, once she wins, her first call is to Lamont to try and like figure out what the fuck is going on. Lamont apologizes for any kind of miscommunication, and Erica basically takes it away, being like, well, I think Lamont was just kind of shady in the whole thing, and we'll just like move past it, because she's debating now, does she do the safe option, which is to nominate Nikki and Frankie, the two people that have been the least around, period, regardless of her social standing with any of them? Or does she take the riskier route, and she doesn't want to have to pick a side between Lamont and Frankie, so she just nominates both of them and leave Nikki off the block completely, despite having the least connection with her? But ultimately, this call leads Erica to believe, you know what? Let's just move past this whole misunderstanding thing. I'm just going to nominate the easy way and just go Frankie and Nikki, just because they're the least around, and call it a day. Which I want y'all's thoughts if y'all think this was the right move. I initially thought she should have just done Frankie and Lamont, or not Frankie and Lamont, Nikki and Lamont, because those were the two people that seemingly she had the least connection to. But that was just me. I don't know.
I thought it was interesting because at one point she's like, should I put up just Lamont and Frankie? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what did Frankie do wrong in this situation? Like the one where he's like actively wanting to work with you, whereas like Lamont is making you confused. And I'd want to work with someone who says they want to work with me rather than someone to like making me doubt myself. That's just me.
Yeah,
I would have put up Nikki and Lamont in this, because I truly don't understand what Frankie has done in this, especially when you have two other people who are outside of Frankie and Lamont coming and telling you, hey, Frankie likes you. I'm not sure where you're getting this other information from, but like Frankie does want to work with you. So Nikki and Lamont is the only thing that makes sense to me in this, but also I know Erica, so like her eventually doing Frankie and Nikki is on brand.
Yeah.
So would Nikki also be her target no matter what, essentially?
Erica's saying she doesn't have a target,
or a hopeful, I guess, because the way I look at it is, you know, I try to put myself in the HOH shoes, and I think I would spiral a little bit if I did hear that there was someone that I was meshing with, and they were like, maybe not. You need to look out. And then I would take that in consideration, check what Lamont was saying, but I would still have that in the back of my mind. So now I think there's still some recovery there with Frankie, even though with them being the easy nom, because now she can go down the path and say, hey, I'm so sorry that I didn't trust you in this. Lamont kind of got this very muddy and skewed my thinking on you, and maybe end up changing the nom, you know, because it's highly likely that could occur. She could say, "Hey, I don't feel confident in our score, so someone's going to go, and so we need someone of value to go and a valuable target." So she could still recover that. But I feel like I would still be sus of Frankie because of the information. So maybe in that moment, but the right decision would have probably been Nikki and Lamont having all the information.
And I have an assignment for BBH Prod to figure this out because I do remember this call. This is the call that happened yesterday, and Lamont giggled after when Erica basically confronted Lamont about like what's true, what's not true. Like let's try to level set on the timeline of events here. Lamont knows what he did on this call. He knows that at this point, what he said on Sunday has made her spiral on Frankie. I just don't know if when he said it on Sunday, if it was intentionally to spiral her, if it was just a miscommunication. Because he knows on Monday, he's like, "Oh, I did this. LOL, giggles. I know what I did."
And then was bragging about it on call with Trey, I believe.
Yeah.
Where he was like, "Ooh, am I the cause for someone going up? Ooh, I guess so. Ooh."
Like, I don't know if it was intentional from the start, or if it was.
I think it was. I think it was. Having seen,
I don't know.
I was.
I think it was intentional. I think it was intentional from the start. We need to get him on a live confessional.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's our goal for today to figure it out.
We'll put on my
I'm about to Nancy Drew this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he knows he caused it, but I just don't know if it was intentional from the start. We'll figure it out, people. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I just was a little shocked she didn't nominate Lamont because she liked Frankie. One of her top allies and Sarah also liked Frankie, and it's seemingly the only person who had any disagreement to the idea that Frankie also likes her was Lamont. So it just seemed the easiest way just to nominate him. But ultimately, Frankie's inactivity, or I don't want to say inactivity because he's not inactive, Frankie's less than activity ultimately finds himself on the block next to Nikki, and Lamont gets spared here. I mean, he will be the renom. He will be the renom. And now let's get into kind of the target of it all. Because initially you would think Erica would want Nikki to leave. Because realistically, Frankie was just the second nominee that has to go up. Nikki was the initial, always going to be on the block. But after Erica and Lamont have this, like not confrontational moment, but like they have this moment of trying to like clear the air and try to figure out all of the stuff. They agree to just not talk about it anymore. Erica's like, "Great, we're moving on. I'm not going to focus on it anymore. I'm just going to nominate Frankie and Nikki because they're the least around, but we're just going to drop it." Erica then proceeds to not drop it and tell Frankie on the call where she's nominating him kind of why he's in this position and not Lamont, and drops Lamont's name and tells him, "Hey, oh yeah, so Lamont created this confusion saying that you might actually not like me and you might have nominated me." Which Frankie then goes on to tell, I don't know, the BBH18 alliance of Madison and Preston. And then Frankie then confronts Lamont himself and basically confronts him. And now Lamont damn well knows that Erica blabbed too much after they agreed not to talk about it. So now if Erica is to find out that Frankie went and told people after she told him not to tell anyone because she accidentally told him, she might now want Frankie to know.
Accidentally. She's like, "Okay, I'll tell you. It wasn't accidentally."
And she said it, she shouldn't have, but she did anyway. So by Frankie telling others, Frankie might actually turn himself into said target by Wednesday because Erica's not going to be too happy that he then went around and told people after she told him not to. It's a mess.
And here's the thing. Here's what I need from Erica. I need for Erica to just like stop talking. Like she is literally in her DR saying, she's like, "Oh my God, like I'm talking way too much," and then continues to do it. Gets on another call and continues to talk too much. Erica, babes, stop, zip it, shut it down.
And if you're gonna talk about lasagna soup, not about
strategy. Like talk about your lasagna soup. Like don't talk about strategy. Like it's kicking your ass right now.
Because she's doing well otherwise. Like she's got a lot of people to work with her. Like Sarah wants to work with her. Michael wants to work with her. She's got Preston and Megan wanting to work with her. Like she's got other avenues. that really want to help her, and she definitely is burying herself with certain people. And Big Brother, the one wrong person winning HOH, and it could be your ass going home. So she's got to be careful. But like otherwise, she's doing well, minus this like huge slip up that she did. But when it comes to the noms, ultimately we have Nikki and Frankie. Where if the voters were to stand, Jabbar and Lamont want different things. Jabbar wants Nikki out, Lamont wants Frankie out, which makes the power player Sarah Williamson. Sarah's in complete power here and gets to be the deciding vote.
From bottom to top.
From bottom to the top.
Let's
I have
go,
no
Sarah.
clue. I have no clue what she would do. Based off of who she would nominate, it seems like she would evict Nikki over Frankie. But again, if Nikki is more around over the course of the next, 36 hours, does that change things? Because Sarah likes Erica, wants to work with her further. If Erica gets really upset with Frankie for leaking something, does Erica ask Sarah, hey, maybe Frankie isn't a great ally, we should get rid of him? So Sarah holds all the power here. I'm unsure where this goes. Right now, I think she would evict Nikki. So right now, it seems like a must-win for Nikki as of right now, but I would not be shocked if the tides turn against Frankie in 36 hours or however long till the eviction from now. So truly unsure, but Nikki or Frankie will be leaving this house. I don't see a world in which it's anyone else. I mean, technically, Lamont is the renom, and then I would assume Sarah is the renom if for some reason Lamont wins the veto and saves Nikki, but I don't think Lamont's winning this veto. Technically, he's the only one to compete from this group. So right now, Lamont is winning the veto, but his score does not strike me as
it's beatable.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as one that's going to win.
It's very beatable.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I'm eating. I'm like, we'll see when we get the real winner.
You're eating prison food is what you're eating.
So yeah, I don't see any world Jabbar or Sarah touch the block now looking at Lamont's score. But Lamont technically could go up. I don't see a world in which Lamont gets evicted here, but I mean, anything is possible in a group of 6. It just takes 2 voters. All you need is 2 voters. But I think Sarah, if Sarah and Jabbar are definitely voting, Sarah and Jabbar both like Lamont, so I just can't see a world in which he is evicted over the likes of Nikki or Frankie. So it's going to be one of the two of them.
I tell you what, Sarah's stock, I was impressed and excited to see her, but between picking the team, okay, that was very impressive. And then just like skating through this round and then just like you said, holding all the cards essentially. I'm really enjoying to see the start of Sarah's game, and like I said, the stock watch is going up significantly for her.
And she's putting in the work.
Yeah, this is possible. I just don't know. The fact that Sarah would nominate Nikki and Jabbar if she had won HOH makes me think that Lamont would be safe over Nikki. But again, there's still 36 hours between now and eviction. So if Lamont finds himself on the block, Sarah could definitely change her tune. But I think if we asked her to evict right now, it definitely would be Nikki over most people right now. Yeah, Sarah's killing it. Keep going.
She was up until 11 o'clock her time, and she said preseason, like, I go to bed early. So she's like, nope, I'll do the work.
Yeah, she has surpassed my expectations. I mean, my first concern was the bedtime. Like 8 p.m. Central, babes, that's not gonna cut it. That's not gonna cut it around here. Like in Oregon,
Gabby didn't even do that.
Yeah, right, Gabby stayed up a little longer than that. Yeah, you can't. That's not an acceptable bedtime to like be around. And I was nervous. Like I said preseason, like Sarah can only do so much. Ultimately, this cast has to give her a chance.
And I'm glad she stayed up past her bedtime last night to talk with Michael. And they ended up having a very good phone call. Mutually loved it. She thinks he's a big personality, but like she loves him otherwise, kind of thing. And stayed up for, I want to say it was a good like 30-minute call, maybe.
Yeah, it was long.
Something like that. Like it was really good. So like, if she just continues to do that, she's fine. Like she on this tribe bunker house is doing exactly what Luis is doing, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, she's
Not
sitting
getting
back,
talked.
letting people come to her. She's got all the intel. She's safe. Yeah, she's doing it. She's doing the damn thing.
You saying that just made me remember one of my favorite parts of her call last night with Michael is that Michael is trying to get to know her. And she's eating it up, like she's asking questions as well, and he's asking questions, and you can very clearly see Michael wants to continue to get to know her, but she just makes this switch of let's talk game, and like she does it so effortlessly and was like, so how are you doing with these noms and whatever, and like it low-key catches Michael off guard because they were talking about his family. And like the kids and dancing and stuff like that, and she just very effortlessly switches it to game and like without skipping a beat. And it was like I wrote it down in my own personal notes. I was like, that was good. Like take note of that, how she did that. Do that if you ever play again. But yeah, I just think I had to note that like she does a phenomenal job of, all right, mentally I'm done trying to get to know you, let's talk game, let's talk strategy.
Because that was my concern for her, because we had seen Ian in 15, and Ian kind of lacked that ability to turn on the game. And I didn't know Sarah coming in, but Sarah came from BBH1, which was full of real life friends, and then BBH5 was a good healthy mix of real life friends. So like it's so much easier to talk game with people you already know. It's so much easier to like move past the get to know you because you know each other. You can immediately go into the game talk. So I was concerned, how is she going to make that transition? And she's a perfect ally for Michael, because Michael also struggles with that, switching the game on, and she has no problem turning it on. So I think they're a great pairing.
I was also, when you mentioned that, Kadri, I was like thinking about Michael, because he's like very empathetic, right? So like,
yeah,
he would probably in the back of his mind be like, I really need to talk about game, but this conversation is getting so good. I'm getting to know this person, and he would not want to be the one to flip that switch.
And that's the thing. He has to learn to flip that switch. Like that's going to set him apart as being that player from 16 that we all knew and loved, and being this new player from 20 that can go further than third boot. Like if he wants to go further than third boot, he has to mentally start to make that switch and be okay with it. And then just pausing conversations and being like, hey, I want to pick this up at another time, but like, let's switch and let's talk about strategy. Let's talk about where the hell we are. Are we going to work together? Who the fuck are we targeting? Who we got to get about the house? Who got to go?
Yeah.
He's missing that element, and like we're about to talk about his HOH run here in the Braun house, and in as much as I've like gone back and forth on how much I like or dislike his HOH, he needs enemies. I think that's the best thing for Michael right now, is to have people that he can nominate without feeling really torn up about it. He needs people.
You agree?
What the fuck? I didn't even want to do it.
Yeah, he needs people that he can nominate and not feel torn up about it inside.
And the thing is, I think he gets
on
a call.
That world exists.
Fair, valid.
Stop fucking going, thumbs up. Like he keeps getting on a call, and like every call that he gets on, we go to his DR and it's like, yo, like thoughts. I don't think he said that he's had a bad call.
No.
And like he walks away thinking the best out of everyone, and I'm like,
he's gotta either wait until like votes scorn him. He's gotta wait until he has more enemies or people that he's against. But I mean,
the problem is that happened in 16, and he was on the wrong side of that, right?
Wrong side, never won, never got that ability to actually do something, and he finally now wins power and has it rough with 5 people he actually genuinely enjoys. So let's get into
and has promised all of them essentially safety.
Jesus Christ. Let's get into Team Braun. Buckle up. Team Braun. It was between Liv, Preston, and Michael all day. Like there reached a point where there was 2 points that separated all 3 of Liv, Preston, and Michael. It literally was so close. in all 3 HOHs lead to completely different results. Like, if Preston had won this HOH, Megan's not touching the block.
True.
At all. And then we go from the 2 least safe people, and Preston and Megan are now in power and 1000% safe. If Liv is HOH, Michael is maybe touching the block, maybe getting evicted with a wrong veto win.
Mm-hmm.
Because he ends up on the block maybe next to Trey. If Megan's to win the veto or Preston's to save Megan off the blocks, like now we go from under a Liv HOH, we might be losing Michael, maybe losing Megan, and now we're under a Michael HOH where the main target is Preston. Like, we have completely different outcomes here. So Michael winning the war of attrition inside the BBH arcade was such a good moment. Because honestly, had it been Liv, there's a very high likelihood that he's the one evicted at the end of the round. With it being Michael and Megan noms, and Preston likely saving Megan with a veto if he's to win it, or Megan saving herself. Like, there's a 1 in 3 chance that Megan's off the block and Michael beat Trey, and Trey's not leaving there. So really fun to see Michael basically take control into his own hands, kind of save himself.
I don't think he realizes he saves himself, though.
No, I don't think he fully realizes how drastic that win was for him. But also, I think
he wanted to win it because he wanted to like prove himself as far as like, from a safety standpoint, from what he told me, not for himself, but for the team, like getting the scores up. Like he kept saying, I'm trying to get these scores up. That's what he kept telling me. So like, I don't think he had any inkling on the danger he was in, which is so interesting considering like he would have been devastated if he would have been booted out even earlier. So he's just he wins, and then now he's just like, I hope everybody stays.
Yeah, and I think, and this is where he gets a little bit into trouble, because this team has the most cohesion of any team. They all like each other.
Right.
And they spent most of Sunday night calling each other, not really discussing game, but more so hyping each other up to win the BBH arcade so their eviction be canceled. They really sang Kumbaya, in hopes that it would boost team morale. So when it came time to nominate, and we have the HOH who is the most empathetic, he doesn't want to nominate anyone, and he has in his mind already promised safety to Caro and Olivia. He doesn't want to touch them because he trusts Caro from 16. He wants to rebuild that bridge with Liv, and he's already between the other 3. He has promised Preston safety because Preston got nervous that it would be Michael's HOH. So Preston does what Preston does best, which is try and salvage up something quickly. Put together something quickly to save himself. We saw that with Whoop Whoop the day before when he made the alliance with Caro and Liv. Once he saw the teams formed, you see it as soon as Michael wins. He then makes an alliance with Megan and Trey called Not for Lee as a opposition to the BBH 16 cohort. And then as soon as before Michael wins or right before the results, he makes a deal with Michael, being like, hey, if I win, you're safe, and hoping to get Michael's, to reciprocate. And Michael does reciprocate against better judgment because when he wins HOH, he gets on call with Caro and Liv, and they're both like, well, who do you want to be safe of those 3? You have the power. And Michael decides he wants Trey to be safe. Despite having a deal with Preston. Ultimately feels his call with Trey was the strongest. It also helps that both Caro and Liv were putting in a little nudge, wink, wink, that Trey doesn't go up on the block because they both want Trey to stay. They're both prioritizing Trey in this house. Like they're okay losing Preston, they're okay losing Megan as long as it's not Trey. So they were already putting, the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, which on top of the fact that Michael feels the best with Trey based off of their one call, ultimately leads to Michael realizing he has to go back on said deal.
My favorite, when he's on call with Rick trying to get like some how do I tell them? And he goes, wait, I made a deal with Preston, and goes back and reads their chat. He goes, well, shit, I guess I did. I don't know if I mean that anymore. And it was so funny to see his realization of like, I'm gonna have to go back with my word and like, how do I say that? How do I approach it? It was very interesting.
I think it sounds like what you just said there. He obviously probably recognized like, oh, what am I supposed to do here? Because I've been in that situation on Preston's side. I mentioned this in the Discord with Danny. Like I knew I bombed, and I just thought, who do I have the least relationship with in this moment? It was like the sound one where you had to count the crazy sound.
Yeah.
So I went to Danny and like 2 others. I was like, hey, I just finished. I feel really good about it. But I just want to let you know you're safe with me, even though I knew I bombed it. And she was like, okay, great. You're safe with me too. And then moments later, I'm getting nominated. And I knew, you know what I mean? I knew that we didn't have a strong relationship. Yeah. So I feel like, Preston probably knew that, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
And, but he will use it to his defense. But part of me, like I said, I was worried for him when that happened, but part of me doesn't worry too much because I feel that there's enough time that he could use something, information from other people, be like, well, I didn't want to tell you this, but I did hear this, and this is the reason why. And I'm hoping that happens for him. I'm hoping he can say, Caro told me this, or, Trey shared this with me. And, but I don't know if he's going to do that because just the way he's been on these calls has been very like, hey, I hope we still get to stay anyway, so.
Yeah. And my big issue is, I guess let's get chronologically there. The problem for Michael is that he took a really long time to get through each call, which again, he wants every call to be meaningful and he wants that connection to be there. I think in a situation where we only gave them 3-4 hours to get it together, and he also came in an hour and a half late because he is Central Time, had to finish work, all that fun stuff. He already is on a shortened schedule, and now that each call is taking longer, his nominees are seeing the clock creep up towards the nomination ceremony, haven't heard from him. They're starting to feel the pit in their stomach, and it gets the worst when you've got Megan and Preston on call. Bad read central. Oh my God, they thought it'll definitely be Megan and Trey. Preston thinks that Caro and Liv might save one of them. They'll definitely evict Trey. After bad reads. They have a bad read on this house. But that's okay. They'll learn it the hard way on Wednesday. Not great when he's calling Erica for advice about what to do, because obviously he's never been in this position. He's also asking Louise for advice, which I'm intrigued to see how this resonates for him moving forward. Like, do people find that sympathetic and want to help him, or do people see it as a liability, being like, hey, if you have to ask advice for everyone, like at what point, like, am I worried you're going to ask advice from the wrong person and do something that I'm not supportive of? Like, I'm intrigued to see how that ultimately factors into his longevity for allies. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. But it's not great when you tell Erica your nominations and then she leaks it to the noms before you tell them. Like, it's never great for a nominee to hear it from anyone but the HOH. It does not feel good. Why are you calling Erica the HOH of the Brain House and not calling me the nominee, yet you want me to stay? Like, no, what the fuck? Like, it makes no sense.
Well, it's funny.
And I go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say Megan is talking to Trey. Who Trey gets off the call, and she's like, "It's just you can see the bus about to crash," and it was really interesting.
It's hard.
Like, I'm not mad at him for asking advice. Like, I get it. It's your first HOH. It's like you said. It's the amount of time it took. It's how many people he's asking for advice. Because now you're gonna just start getting conflicting things. And then you don't know how to cut off a conversation. And then when you finally get on the conversation with Preston to let him know, you spend most of it apologizing. You tell him that you're going back on your word that you promised him a little bit ago, to then make another promise that you're going to vouch for him. If Preston does stay, I think that is like worst case scenario for Michael, because now Preston's just going to be like, he's promised me twice, and like his word means nothing. Can easily go and tell other people that and ruin, and he will, because it's Preston. But like it was a good start, and then it quickly went downhill. And I think Michael has unfortunately made every mistake that you don't want to make as an HOH. But there's room for growth here, and I think he needed this early. I think we talked about it in the VL. This is a growing point. He did not get to play a lot of BBH in 16, to be honest. Now he's playing a lot of BBH in round 1. And he's getting to see just how hard it is. So even though it is horrible and he is not managing it well right now, I think he is going to come out of this with a few people in his corner. Jabbar is in love with him. Christian is willing to die for him. Sarah feels good with him. Like he's getting some people in his corner, and I think this could give him some allies, and maybe it'll be enough to kind of like insulate him a little bit coming into the second round. So like horrible, but there's some good to kind of come out of it.
And like what Stokes is saying in the YouTube chat, they would have nominated Michael. So Michael picked the right noms. Like he truly picked the right noms, but like it was rough getting there.
Well, I don't know.
I wish Preston would just clue him in on like Trey, Caro, Olivia all wanting to nominate Michael.
Yeah.
So Michael can realize, hey, these are not my people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what Megan would have done, honestly, because she never really fully said, because she knew she wasn't winning. So we never really got her full thoughts on it. Like, I don't know what she would have done. My gut says she probably would have done it, but I don't have full confirmation. I damn well know Preston would have nominated Michael. Like, he already promised Liv and Caro, and he's not touching Megan. Like, there's no way in hell he would have honored that deal with Michael.
Right.
And
everyone on that team would have nominated Michael. He is the easy nom. Like, let's just call a spade a spade.
Yeah, he was.
He is the easy nom from that team. So all of them, there's some speculation, like could be speculation on what Megan would have done. All of them would have put Michael up there, easy, because it's the hand that gets you the least blood on your hands or whatever. He's empathetic as hell, so you're gonna go into that call, you're gonna tell him, and he's gonna be like, no problem. I completely understand. You're good. Like no hard feelings. Like, I'm not gonna hold this against you. Yada yada yada. It's easy. I would have done it. Sorry, Michael. Love you, but
yeah.
Well, and I think too, like I look back at how he communicated to the members of his group. Right. He started with Caro, went to Liv. I don't remember if he went to Trey. So I was like, okay, he's doing what he should be doing. And then I'm watching him and he's like listening, because normally he's trying to talk and connect, but I could see him being like, hey, I'm not saying this is what I'm going to do, but I want your advice. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. And then he went outside of the group, Luis, Erica. And then I'm thinking to myself, time is ticking and he hasn't talked to the noms yet. And then I would hope that he would be, or his future noms, I would hope he would get to a point where he could talk to his future noms and extract some information from them to use to his advantage, right? But it became hey, I'm calling you to tell you that I'm nominating you and I hate this and I'm so sorry. And he talked the whole time.
Yeah.
And because of timing. And I really wish that would have been different for him. I know time was a constraint for him, but back to what y'all were saying, I mean, he's doing damage control for something that he was already going to be damaged by if he wasn't in power.
Exactly. So like and that's why it's hard to be negative on his HOH because it's his first time. Like realistically, it could have gone a lot worse. He's also in a super confined setting with little time, with a house that he genuinely loves and would not have touched had it been an entire house of 18. Like a lot of dominoes went wrong for it to just be already a shitty HOH to begin with. Like honestly, any HOH would have left with blood on their hands. Honestly, right. All of them. Like Megan, Preston, Liv, Caro, they all would have had to have, and Trey, they would have had to have burned people.
Right. I mean, so like, I'll tell you this though, Trey's conversation with Michael, the initial one, was so impressive. Yeah. Like I fell for Trey then, because when he was giving him like actual advice, not just like whatever you want to do. Tell me who your target is, because that your target doesn't matter. You don't have a vote, right? But he's like, whatever you want to do. And he's like, you could separate yourself from the season 16 and maybe put one of them up, And I was like, oh, it's like, so he's like positioning what he wants, which is good because Michael's getting that information, right? But I'm wondering if that seed's planted if there's a renom that occurs. Because now he could have that opportunity to maybe put up a Liv and say, Liv, I don't want people to think we're working together, so I need a renom. I need you to fall on this sword for me.
Well,
did we talk about Megan's call?
I was about to bring this up.
I mean, let's get
I was
to
about to bring
it.
that up.
Liv, Preston, and Megan don't give, or not Liv, Preston, and Megan. Trey, Preston, and Megan don't just give up. Like, even though Trey wants Preston gone, he's not unwilling to step in to save Megan as well. Like he will gladly have his cake and eat it too. He doesn't want Megan to touch the block, period. He'd rather see someone like Liv, and why he would rather see Liv touch the block is because when Michael won, Caro had told Trey, being like, hey, this is a way better outcome than Liv winning. And Trey's like, why? I feel really good with Liv. And Caro told Trey, well, Liv is having a real fucking spiral because she knows she needs to nominate Michael, but doesn't want to burn Michael again after they just rebuilt this bridge after 16. So
Rebuilt.
Carol the fact that Trey might have gone up under a Liv HOH because she would rather salvage what she has with Michael and risk Trey leaving. So Trey now knows, oh, well, maybe Liv isn't as high as I thought she was. So Trey's super willing to let Liv go on the block instead of Megan, which is why he brings up, well, if you don't nominate any of your 16 people, they're going to think that y'all are 16 strong. Megan brings up the same thing. Megan's like, well, I would be nominating my own house, and very much like, I'm here with you. I'm not going to be mad at you, but like, I'm with you and you shouldn't nominate me or risk me. Preston doesn't give up either. Like, everyone really fights back against what Michael is thinking and wants him to rethink what he's doing here. And Michael's already kind of rethinking his renom. He knows his brain is telling him it should be Trey. Mm-hmm. He thinks that he just can't put Caro up, and he's too early to put up Liv. But his heart is telling him that he likes Trey more than he likes Liv. He doesn't want to risk Trey, and he's concerned that Liv would save Preston along with Megan would save Preston. And in this situation, Preston gets to stay and he loses Trey. Obviously, we know that Liv would save Trey over Preston. But like, from his perspective, he knows that Liv is a mutual friend with Kelly Farmer, who is really great friends with Preston. So he's assuming that connection goes deeper. Obviously, we know that's not the truth. But he already is having these thoughts about, well, maybe Liv is the better the renom here. And I think these conversations might go that direction if there is a need for a renom.
What if Preston wins the veto and it's Megan and Liv? Does Liv go?
This is if they were smart.
Yeah.
She would. Trey and Preston would evict Liv here. Yeah.
Interesting. Spicy.
So,
right. And that's the thing too. Like, I understand having, working with former castmates. I mean, the final three was all people from BBH11 on Second Chances, right? Not by like initial design, I guess, but eventually that occurred. So I get that, but the reality is he knows he can't fully trust her. And just from if he starts thinking about the optics part of it, it could be a way to be like, hey, look, it's no big deal. You're going to go up and it just looks like we're not working together. She would spiral. Would she retaliate? Yes. Would Michael be her number one target because of it? Maybe. I don't know. But I'm just thinking, I think Michael's worried about like if she were to come back, right? Because like there's a chance that someone could come back.
Yeah.
And but if I'm making the move from afar, that's the move I would make on a renom. I think that would be the move to do.
Yeah, it's so difficult. Oh my god, leave me alone. Sorry, I got a work email. Yeah, it's difficult because that's a hard tightrope to walk. Like if Preston or Megan is to win the veto, and he's between Trey and Liv, the thing is that Trey would have to be very careful because the problem is he trusts Caro more than anyone, and if he used to tell Caro, "Hey, if Liv goes up, we have to evict her," Caro doesn't want that, and she would go tell Michael, "Hey, Trey's going to evict Liv. You can't put up Liv." So they have to walk a very close tightrope, or they have to be very careful if that is to be the outcome that ends up happening. Trey has to be very careful about alluding to what might happen to Caro because Caro will leak that shit so quick. Michael will put up Trey, and we'll lose Megan or Preston, whoever remains on the block. So very interesting scenarios there. I mean, the only way this veto is being used is if one of the nominees wins it.
Right.
Like Trey knows that Megan is safe here if the noms stay the same. Preston is a must win for Preston if he wants to stay in the game, because right now Trey and Caro dictate what happens in this vote. They are going to vote to evict Preston here. Olivia, or I'm so used to calling her Olivia. I know she wants to go by Liv now. Jesus Christ. Liv fully knows that Trey and Caro are going to evict Preston if the noms stay the same. Right now, she's just trying to figure out how she wants to play it in classic BBH16 fashion for her. She wants to figure out, do I act naive and act like Preston? I had no idea that they were going to do that, or does she say?
And the gag is, no one is going to buy it this time.
Yeah, she's got a
like that shtick is over. Is it shtick? Whatever else. The shtick is over. She needs to get a new bit. It's time.
So I'm intrigued to see kind of how she plays with that, because it sounds like she's going to be throwing the veto today in hopes that Preston will win it because she wants Megan to leave. She doesn't want Preston to go. She knows she has no power with Caro and Trey being the voter, so she'd rather have Preston save himself so they can just evict Megan and get what she wants. So shall be interesting to see how all of that plays out. But
I'm interested to see too. Like, I think Preston and Megan were figuring out like these bitches knew that we were going up and didn't tell us.
They knew.
That's what I think is going to be very interesting. That could save Michael from the collateral damage of this, whatever. Even if they come back, because they're going to be like, okay, Michael put me up, but they damn well could have told me about this because they knew. And if Erica knew, they had to know, you know. So that I think that could be helpful in the long run. But
Megan goes, "Do you think Caro knew the whole time she was on call with me?" Because Caro had already been on call with Michael at that point. So Megan's like, "Oh no," and I don't think she did. But like Megan's like, "Well, damn, they're against me, gal."
Yeah, and Megan fully doesn't think Trey was lying to her either. When Trey's like, "I don't know who the noms are, but I don't think it's gonna be me." Oh, Trey fully fucking knew who they were gonna be. Oh, Trey fully fucking knew. Like Megan and Preston fully not realizing the situation that they're in inside this house, and it's unfortunate to see because they're two strong players just having some really unfortunate bad placed reads because they trust certain people in the house they shouldn't. But intrigued to see what happens here. It very much clearly, despite Liv initially wanting to save Preston and Michael preferring Preston to stay, some things have occurred. Trey leaked the Not For Lee alliance to Michael, telling him like, "Hey, Preston's a social threat. He will make deals with whoever he needs to. Like, if it's time to cut him, it's time to cut him." And Jabbar is sitting in the corner, egging Trey on, being like, "You better cut him. You better cut him. You need to cut him." So yeah, an absolute must-win for Preston in a situation where the cards have completely turned against him. It seemed like Megan would have been the target yesterday, or I guess like Sunday coming into Monday, but sometimes doing too much is the wrong thing, and Preston kind of got caught doing a little bit too much to try and save himself in this very unfortunate twist, and he's kind of getting caught in the crossfire. So he must-win situation for him to avoid an eviction here, but maybe if Megan wins and Liv goes up, he might be okay as well, but I doubt it. So he needs to win. So
and for some reason, he thinks Trey would win the POV and use it on Megan, but I don't think Preston realized. I don't think anyone realizes how close Trey and Caro are.
Well, Michael now knows because Michael and Trey had a spill all sesh last night where they like Michael's like, I trust Louise and Kara more than anyone, and Trey's well, Kara's my girl, and I'm like, why are y'all sharing this? Goddamn, like keep that
close.
Shit. Like Trey and Kara could have been that duo that really was under the radar because only Megs knew about it. The only person who knew about it was Megs, and now it's gotten to Michael, and love Michael to death. Others will know. Love Michael. He blabs a lot unintentionally. So
I think it's just his personality.
He loves to talk, and
he does love to talk.
I mean, I love to talk, but I know like what A, B, and C are not being talked about.
Yeah. So super excited to see all this plays out. Some other quick things. I think Victoria is starting to really find her footing a little bit. She's having some way more successful conversations. She had a good call with Jabbar. Her and Rizzo are getting a bit stronger. We've already talked about Louise killing the game, but Louise, Megs, Jabbar are all killing it. They're absolutely riding exactly where they need to be right now, and they're just sitting back pretty despite them being some of the biggest threats in the game, and they should absolutely not be sitting pretty right now, but they are. We might be on the verge of seeing a pre-jury alliance being formed, which would be Trey, Victoria, Michael, Megan. I think that's it.
Is Megan into that? Do you think Megan will be into it, or is it safer?
I don't think it's
Megan needs to be into it. That's the thing.
Well, Megan made that part of her her defense, if you will, before she went on the block. She was like, I would love to see us pre-jurors make it to jury at least this time. Let's work together. She kept hammering that. So it'd be interesting to see her being nominated by a pre-juror, how much she would trust that group.
Yeah, we shall see. Already talked about that. Trey and Lamont, we're seeing kind of like Trey really trusts Lamont, but Lamont does not trust Trey back. You can see Lamont thinking Trey's doing a bit too much. And this could be Trey's undoing. Trey might tell Lamont too much, and Lamont will use it to oust Trey when it's time to go. Lamont is just very nervous that his connection to Trey is what will doom him here in this game, because Lamont's trying to keep a low profile, and Trey is doing things that is bringing attention to Trey, and he doesn't want to be tethered to that. So we're seeing a little bit of cracks forming there.
I'm going to say this. I hate the Black Coffee Alliance.
Damn. Wow.
And we don't have to elaborate on it, but it is quite literally my least.
Elaborate on it. I mean, we talked about it yesterday.
I didn't watch it yesterday. I was in nonstop.
My thing is, and again, I'm not an African American male. I will never understand the struggles and the connection that they have initially and all of that. I love the mission of wanting the first African American male winner in BBH. I love that. I think it's an amazing mission. But for a mission to succeed, you have to do what the Cookout did in 23. You have to all be willing to sacrifice anything and everything for the mission, and they don't have that.
And that's why I hate it. Like, normally I would be all about it. When I freaking opened up my phone and I saw Black Coffee, I said, Jesus, please let it be what I think it is. And I opened it, and it was exactly what I thought it was. And I was like, yes. And then I started reading DRs, and I started reading duo messages between them. It's like, this is the most, they don't have a common bond. Besides the color of their skin, that is it. And I'm like, I see what you're doing, but it'll never, this alliance will absolutely break up by round 3, period.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to be willing to sacrifice anyone and everyone for the mission, and they clearly are more self-interested. And there's nothing wrong with being self-interested. There's nothing fucking wrong with being self-interested.
And there's a way to be selfish while still thinking of your alliance that you have, or whatever. Rizzo is doing a lot, but by not being available. But it said he is open to working with Victoria and being a duo, but his first responsibility is himself. And I love it. He's willing to work with her, but as soon as she gets in the way of the mission, she's done. I don't know, Black Coffee is just stupid, and they need to just disband. Pour that shit out down the drain.
Well, here's the thing though. Black Coffee, there's a mission, right? But then some people might hold their own personal mission over it. they might be using Black Coffee to execute their own personal mission, right?
Yeah.
So they're saying, hey, this might get, 7 rounds deep, and then we might not agree on some of these noms or some of who the targets. So then we're just gonna agree to disagree and move forward. I think that's more likely gonna occur because they, like you said, their bonds and their ideology as far as who they're working with in the game are not going to overlap. And that's what's going to, I think, cause a problem when they try to have to make tough decisions as the funnel closes.
And my concern is seeing kind of a similar Conquest 22 fallout as when you have an alliance that supposedly has a mission, and then members of that alliance start to do things that don't align with the mission, and then that hurts even more.
Wait, who?
Oh, girl, I've heard tea. I'm not going to spill any tea on here.
Oh, girl,
like,
put me in the background.
No, we saw in that season a similar mission. Jabbar talked about it being like he's not in the mental headspace to do this again because he like just did it. It hurts triple, quadruple as much when someone that is supposed to share the mission does something that goes against the mission. Then it hurts even more being like we agreed. The thing is that they haven't had this mutual understanding that the mission doesn't really exist. And they need to have that discussion.
And without spilling too much tea and getting too far into it, that original mission in Conquest was 5 people. 2 people did not share that same mission, but the other 3 banded together, and like it was a good ass alliance, making it to Final 4, Final 5, something like that. Yeah, something like that. So like, the thing with them starting already with 3 people, and 2 people are kind of weary on doing this whole shindig, like
it's not going to work.
It's never going to succeed. Never going to succeed.
But Trey's going to be super hurt about it because it's really important to him, and it's not as important to your Jabbar. Lamont and Jabbar wanted to be them. They don't really care if it's any of the 3 of them. They want it to be them. Trey would be happy with any of the 3 of them winning, and so if Trey gets blindsided or hurt by one of them, it's really going to sting because he's going to come from a place of, I thought we were doing this for us, for the mission, but the mission doesn't exist because I'm all bought into it. So I love Black Coffee, but yeah, they don't see eye to eye. I mean, honestly, none of these alliances are really that tight.
They're not real.
None of them are giving.
Real, to be honest, we don't have a single alliance that's real. So
it's no magic feat, that's for sure.
All that to be said, that this game is wide open. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, so stay with us. We have results at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, which will reveal the 3 veto winners. We'll see what plays out. The only house that I think is of any interest is Braun. I think the renoms are pretty much all set. Otherwise, Michael might have a hard decision deciding between Trey and Liv if a renomination is necessary, depending on who wins it. So stick with
what type of comp is the veto?
It is Math Path.
Okay. So
they are Mathin and Pathin. We got 2 or 3 more submissions right now, so I need to go grade those. But any last thoughts? Peace on out for the day.
I'm excited to see if POVs are used. That's what I want to see. I kind of want a little bit more blood for Team TV, but that's just me.
Especially with the circumstances and the returnee aspect, and
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens. It's never a dull moment. It's never a dull moment here. So
props to Dan for the twist too.
Yes, everyone go thank Dan's twist is definitely Team TV. It's not player. It's not beloved by the players.
And the players have told us.
At the end of the day here, people have to go home pre-jury, and they're all upset that it's not that Rizzo or Victoria or Madison might not be the first boot of the season. But guess what? That's only 3 people. There are more pre-jurors than that. Some of y'all got to go home pre-jury if you like it or not. So one of you might be making an earlier exit than expected. And
they get to come hang out with us.
Yeah, that's just life. So
yeah,
love them, but that's life. There are more pre-jurors than 3. Yes, any twist that players hate is a good twist. It absolutely has shaken up this house, and they've had to work with new people and not just rely on what they're used to relying on. And I know that's uncomfortable, but welcome.
That's why we did it, right? Because we knew there's connections, and we're like, fucking try.
and I love mess, but when I say I would hate to be playing this season with this twist,
who doesn't love a Final Six?
Not also the cast. I mean, you've got
girl, I got voted out at 6. I didn't want this.
I essentially got voted out of Final Six too, so I get it.
Anyway,
so with that being said, I'll make an event for 7:30 p.m. Eastern tonight to do results for the veto, but I would imagine a pretty quiet day until then, just because what is there to talk about? Like, noms aren't official, noms aren't done yet, so let's not get too crazy. So enjoy the day off until then, but we'll be chatting with you on the Discord as always. But for me, for Kadri, for Ashley,
bitch, what the fuck?
Bye, everyone.